Well, if you followed my channel for any length of time, you know that I am massively, massively pro HS2. I think it's very much an infrastructure project that we need desperately. We've seen, we had Gareth Dennis on, who, again, excellent conversation we had with Gareth Dennis. If you want to know anything and everything about HS2, go give that video a watch. We've been over sort of rail experts who have written countless times. It said if you want to solve UK rail, problems, which is a capacity problem, then you need to build HS2. Otherwise, you are just ensuring that the bottle gaps, the bottlenecks that are created that are there already, just get even worse. This is why when people go, oh, but can't we just build, more lines? You're just adding to the bottleneck at this point. This is why you need HS2. The whole idea of HS2 was to remove those fast trains onto their own track so that you free up capacity on these tracks. Because if you have these massive gaps where there could be trains running, but you can't because there's the fast train here and there's a slow train here, and you can't put anything in between because the fast train otherwise would literally be catching up here to these slower trains. So we do very, very, very much need HS2. This is something that we cannot escape not building. And this is something that I myself am sort of very, very passionate about. In fact, I have just written an email, shall we say, my first email since the election, to Dan Jarvis, also congratulating him on his win, and then really once again enforcing the need to build HS2. So, yeah, like I say, if you have a conservative, Labour, Lib Dem, whatever MP you've got, do write to them. Writing to your MP does have quite a big impact. I just sent an email, but you can email them as well if you want. But sending a letter does send I think quite a big impact. All MPs do have sort of their addresses and sort of how that is done. If you're ever sort of confused or anything like, or how you want to sort of structure the letter, I recommend using ChatGPT. Honestly, ChatGPT will help you structure out that letter. So, AI, again, a tool, really good tool to help you, write your letter, or maybe even your first letter to your MP. So something else I would love to hear, and always love to hear in comments, what was your first experience writing to your MP, and did you get a reply? Or if you do write to your MP for the first time, what response do you get? Do you not get a response? Whatever. And bear in mind, if you don't get a response, go see them in the surgery and say, oh yeah, I wrote to you about this a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't get a response about it. Perfect excuse to go to your MP surgery, by the way. But anyway, we're going to go talking about this because I think this is, again, something Labour do really, really need to tackle. We have seen, can't remember what his name now. His name, I can see his face, glasses and everything. Junior Minister to sort of Rachel Reeves has talked about sort of, keeping sort of HS2 alive. And of course, the direction stuff that needs, to happen does need a lot of funding. I will say that. Now, borrowing is a possibility, but there are tons of things you could do. You could issue railway shares. You could maybe do something like, because the pension funds love to invest in infrastructure and things like that. Maybe there's something you could do with that to sort of get that investment going. There's a ton of different ways we could do, also apart from borrowing. So, you just need to, I think, bring these ideas forward to sort of how you can do this. And I think those start the conversations going, how we can bring greater infrastructure investment to the UK. And HS2 is something we drastically need on this. So we're going to have a look at this article that was written, again, saying, hey, Rachel Reeves, you need to guarantee that HS2 runs to Euston, because otherwise you're going to have much, much further problems down the line. And it is something that is going to cost you even more if you do not build it now. So As always, before we do go get into this, please do remember to click the like, the share button, the down below, the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, all that good stuff down below. So, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. And of course, let's crack on into this. So, this comes from The Guardian. The title of Reeves must guarantee HS2 runs to Euston, spending cuts or not. So, no, the long, painful saga of HS2 did not reach its final destination when Rishi Sunak axed the entire northern phase of the project last October. For starters, there is now the mopping up exercise on the cost of that declaration, a complete write-off of 2.17 billion in the latest accounts. This is something not enough people, I think, bring up. The fact that even though Rishi Sunak cancelled HS2, there is billions and billions of pounds now having to, mop up all that cost. It's not something you just cancel and you've saved a ton of money. There's a ton of like mop up costs, as was said there, to sort of sort out all that. Building the rest of HS2 already proving to be much cheaper than canceling it. So there you go. So back to this. Of that, the 1.1 billion pounds, remember, we're talking huge sums of money here, huge sums of money, but it is something that we need to do because this is an investment in the UK and it will help solve future transport problems which we are going to be facing. Otherwise, we are going to be facing rail chaos for decades to come if we do not build this type of infrastructure. But back to this. Of that 1 billion, that money is actually now spent on the ground preparing for phase 2 before it was. This money is now down the drain in the purest sense. So we've lost 1.1 billion. 1.1 billion just from that. But continues, there is then the even unresolved question of Euston, which has now been its own fiasco with the greater shambles. So the intended HS2 station of the site has been through already 2 designs. There is still nothing that resembles a final plan, and in large part because the Department for Transport, quote, still does not know what it is trying to achieve, as the Public Accounts Committee put it last year. And again, this is now where we've got a new Department for Transport, a new minister in charge for transport. I might even have to write a letter to her as well, or to her on this as well. Definitely needs sorting out on this. So, but then this continues. So the former Prime Minister's last contribution was then to ditch the 10 platform version of this appointment to now a new design body to attract now private capital and, of course, a definitive strategy. On the plus side, Sunak's action did at least seem to acknowledge that it would be absurd to stop the railway at Old Oak Common, just 5 miles to the west of Euston. All the modelling shows that the destination would primarily be convenient only to about a third of passengers, those going on to Heathrow or catching a tube onto the Elizabeth line. So there you have it. When you're building these things, you've got to think about who's going to use it. Why are they going to use it? So stopping at Old Oak Common, pointless. Why stop it there? Go into Euston. More people are going to use it. More people are going to find it convenient. And ultimately, as we said before, when you're building, public transport and things like this, you've got to think about that. You've got to really think about how people are going to interact with the transport system. And that has been something for the past 14 years we have not seen. Something I really do hope. Bear in mind, we've seen Labour sort of look at the big picture in all of this in other areas. So I do hope they're doing this in this area as well. So I do have a lot of faith that is happening, but we'll see what happens. So on the downside, the outgoing government did not actually provide the funding to set the tunnelling machines into motion to complete the last leg to Euston. It is why this now forward detailing on page of 84 of HS2's annual report is now opposed to the historical write-offs. It was a critical bit of the document, saying the failure to secure funding to deliver the Euston tunnels and the station could impact the organisational's body to safely operate and maintain Old Oak Common Station and train services across HS2, the Western Main Line, and the Elizabeth Line. So, by not doing this, you are then having safety and operational problems. So now you've just reached the point where you've got to do this, otherwise you are creating a potential massive safety problem. You know, it boggles the mind why Rishi Sunak cancelled this when I don't think he understood, or at least there was no one there who could properly maybe articulate to him why cancelling HS2 was bad or why doing all this stuff was just such a nonsense proposition. I wish at the time the West Birmingham mayor Andy Street, that was it. He should have just resigned, because he threatened to resign if this happened, if this money had been cut, and he didn't follow through with it. And I wish he had done that. I think would have sent a far stronger statement on that. But anyway, back to this. Well, quite. Stopping at Old Oak Common would probably now overwhelm the already heavily used Elizabeth line and make the whole system less reliant. So just think about that. By stopping at Old Oak Common, you are using an already heavily used line, you're making it even worse. Meaning now you maybe have to plan other things. You see why planning on like this takes a long, long time. Thinking about how people use transport, how they use it, what is the most convenient, thinking of all these joined up thinkings, because when you're getting there, you're not just thinking about people using HS2 to go north and south. You're then thinking, okay, what happens when they arrive in London? Where do they go? What transport do they then go on to from there? So you see, once again, the whole idea of interlinked transport and thinking how that comes into play. So back to this. So West Coast passengers would also probably continue to use the conventional service to Euston, thereby now undermining the supposed core idea that HS2 will release capacity for local services. So in short, there is no alternative going into Euston. HS2, even in its slimmed down incarnation, makes now very little sense without it. Despite the speculation of the future of the Euston Tunnel now hangs in the balance, Chancellor Rachel Reeves did not mention it in a list of spending cuts on Monday. So again, there is hope. So let us hope that money will now arrive from somewhere, because a critical point is now approaching fast. The boring machines, now awaiting final assembly in Germany, need to be deployed and be in place at Old Oak Common before the next stage of the work on the station. This is due to be completed between 2029 and 2023. So time is ticking very fast on this. Very fast on this. So the actual design of Euston can at least wait, but the green light for tunneling is required within months. So the overspend on the misconceived HS2 over the years has been now a national embarrassment. But phase one, with a leg to Euston, would make now a bad situation even worse. Reeves should now clear up, and without the fresh uncertainty over the tunnel, it has to be built. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more on this. Because if you don't, all this situation leaves us with is you have to then spend more money building this tunnel later down the line, because otherwise you're going to get bigger problems on the transport network, mainly even more increased pressure on the Elizabeth line. So yeah, I hope they are thinking about this. I really, really do hope they are thinking about this, but it's something that they really need to do, really need to get their heads around and bite the bullet and just do it. And just do it. Because if they don't, we have future transport problems ahead, which, guess what, cost us more money to then solve a problem that we could be solving now, which would cost us a lot less money. Anyway, Let me know what you think down below. But I really do hope that there are, like as we've seen before, the adults are in the room. We have heard it was not part of the cut plans, so we hope that this does get built and does get sorted out, because we do very, very much need HS2, not only just to improve capacity up to sort of Birmingham, but beyond that as well, up to the northern part. We need the northern leg as well, going off up into sort of Sheffield. So again, build it. Because if you don't, you're just going to be there in like another 10 years, and you have to build it anyway. So might as well build it now. So as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.